Now it's time to talk about some graphs. Still in a review tab of the software. As you can see here, we've got kinematic sequence as our first graph. With each of the graphs, if you click on them one time, they will expand and bring up the zoom in and zoom out buttons. We'll go ahead and zoom in. Shows each graph at full screen. This axis will always be the units that the graph is being displayed in. For example, the kinematic sequence is in degrees per second. This axis will always be the timeline. Each graph has two red lines. The first red line is top of backswing. The second red line will be impact. Okay, we'll go ahead and minimize this graph. The graph and the avatar are always synced together. So when we move the timeline, as you can see, the timeline on the graph moves as the avatar moves. Also notice that the units change and are displayed while the avatar is moving. Okay, let's go ahead and minimize this. So again, first graph is a kinematic sequence. Second graph we show is the pelvis rib cage, the breakout of the kinematic sequence. Next one's rib cage lead arm. And then the final one for the breakouts is the lead arm and the club. Those are all, again, all displayed in degrees per second on the y-axis. Okay, as we continue to scroll down. Next in line is the lead wrist set angle. The units for this one are in degrees. And again, for all the graphs, the x-axis will always be the timeline. Next graph we have is lead arm adduction. Unit is in degrees. Spine turn, often referred to as X factor, in degrees. This graph here is shoulder versus rib cage turn graph. This graph is exclusive to the MySwing system, as other systems don't measure both shoulder joint rotation. This graph is measured in degrees as well. Okay, now let's scroll to the bottom. Now we're getting into some of our displacement or translation graphs. Here we have center of mass, sway, thrust, and lift. This unit of measurement is in inches or centimeters. Same thing with pelvis, sway, thrust, lift, and rib cage, sway, thrust, lift. And then finally we have the wrist angles. These are measured in degrees. This is extension, flexion of the wrist, supination, pronation, and ulnar and radial deviation. So this concludes the curves. Now let's look at a different way to view the graphs. Okay, we'll scroll to the top, click on the box here. It's a 3D view of the graphs. We'll go ahead and play it once. As you can see, a little different way to view the kinematic sequence and the rest of the graphs. We'll scroll to the bottom. And then here we have the displacement graphs. Again, a different way to view these graphs as well. The horizontal bars will be the horizontal motion either toward and away from the target or toward and away from the ball. And then the vertical motion will be lift vertically, up and down in relationship to the ground. Okay? And then last but not least, we have the report button. The report button shows data at different positions throughout the swing. Here we have it at address, top of backswing, and at impact. We show shoulder turn, pelvis turn, some displacement, sway, pelvis sway, spine rotation, and some other data points there as well. So as you can see with the MySwing system, we covered what we can do with the 3D avatar. We've shown you what we can measure and capture with the graphs. We can basically capture anything you want to capture and go as deep as you want to go. We know how to capture, we know how to review, now let's compare. In compare, we can look at swings from two different people, or we can look at the same person swings from different times. To look at swings and compare, we can click open. For each swing, for swing 1 and swing 2, as you can see, we've already got 2 swings opened. These swings are from 2 different players. One hitting a 7-iron, one hitting a driver. Let's go ahead and play it. Everything you saw in review, we can do in compare. We can add settings. We can change the camera angles in the top left corner, and we can also click and drag them to any angle we want to look at. Okay, let's take a look at settings. Let's add, let's do side tilt. So here, anytime you add a setting in the compare tab, it will add that setting to both swings. We'll go ahead and play it. And again, we can move the avatars around, clicking on down the line, clicking on face on. Okay, let's go ahead and play it again. So we'll play it to about the top and then hit pause. And then we can also use the tabs at the bottom. We can click on impact for both swings, and we'll move it to impact. We can back up and look at the top of the backswing for each swings. We can loop them, just how we did in review, to where they're both playing continuously. And we can also speed them up or slow them down. Okay, let's go back into settings. Let's add some, we'll add some rotations. Let's do thighs and rib cage. Again, both settings will be added to both swings, swing 1 and swing 2. We can show positions at address, and again, we can play them, or we can click to different positions. Okay, as you see on the right here, we've got the graphs, the same graphs that we showed in review. The graphs will be grouped together, so that way the top graph will be the graph for swing 1, and the bottom graph will be the graph for swing 2. As you can see, the kinematic sequence is both displayed, and as you can also tell, there is a big difference in the kinematic sequence between each swings. As you scroll down, again, each graph will be grouped together. Here you see a breakout of the kinematic sequence, and always remember the top graph is for swing 1, the bottom is for swing 2. Okay, we can click on the 3D box. We'll show the same thing, just a different view. We can also click on the report. The left column is going to be swing 1. The right column will be swing 2. As you can see, big differences in some of the positions, the position at address, top of backswing, and impact. Okay, that covers the compare tab. Now let's take a look at the help tab. Okay, in help, as you can see, we've got a quick start guide. The quick start guide will help you with any questions you have about the MySwing system, about operating the MySwing system. If you haven't taken a look at that, please do. Here we have how to connect our TrackMan and how to connect your flight scope.